everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the Dice Tower. And today I'm going to be talking about 7 different games, of which I have various opinions on, giving you some short overviews of each of them, and then you can see if you're interested in them. So, let's get started. First, we have Virtual Revolution. This is from Guy Roger Duvert, Cyril Villalonga from Hachette Games, or Studio H here. And this is some sort of tech revolution in the future, kind of, sort of cyberpunk-esque to some degree. It's based on a movie that I've not seen, so I can't really speak to that. In this game, you're going to have 3 actions on your turn. You're going to recruit agents, generate income, build servers, start these verses, like some, almost like a cool area that you can go into, like dinosaurs, some multiverse thing. The area is split into 7 districts. There are each has 3 or 4 boroughs. You're recruiting these agents that you're going to be able to use over the course of the game with special actions, or you can promote them, or you can even retire agents to get other agents out. You can score points. It's an area control game, for sure. And these unique little servers that you build are going to score you points at the end of the game. At the same time, everything you're doing, or various things you do, will cause you to have corruption, which, the more corruption you have, you can attract the attention of the Interpol, which is a pretty nasty thing. There are a lot of options in this game. It's pretty hard to do everything that you want to do. The board is harder to get more stuff. It's easy to lose influence, harder to get influence on the board. And so you're trying to control these different boroughs and fight back and forth amongst each other. There is a lot of back and forth between the players. It's a bit punishing, which is why my rating isn't higher. I mean, the Interpol stuff is always there. You can get out of it. And you might even be able to trigger an Interpol raid because it's not going to affect you as much as it affects other people. The artwork's also really good, especially the little verses that you go into. I like them a lot. There's a ton of things to do in this game. That's good, but you can't go close to everything. And while that's usually a positive for me, in this case, I would like to do maybe a little more. But still, it's pretty cool. There's endgame scorings. There's a lot of objectives. There's just a lot going on in the game, and yet it's not, I wouldn't say, an overly complex game. It has a unique theme. There's a lot of, these futuristic type games out there, but this one feels different than the rest of them, and a lot of back and forth. So despite some of its shortcomings, there's, a bit of clunkiness. It is one that I do enjoy, and I would definitely want to check out. A 7 out of 10 for Virtual Revolution. Clans of Midgard is a roll or draft and write game. A draft, write, and fight game is how they describe it. From Alara Cameron, Travis Chance, and published by Grey Fox Games. It is in the line, obviously, Champions of Midgard is very popular, so this is set in that same universe of Vikings or what have you. There's a deck of cards in this game that you're going to be drawing from. You'll be drafting these cards, and each card has various things on it, so you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Maybe you want to get a bunch of monster symbols. Maybe you want to sail the seas. There's cross-off runes. There's different letters that you'll cross off and try to cross off rows and columns. And every card will have multiple choices on it, so it's a little tough to do this. My concern with this game is I feel like I've already played it. There's a game out there called Boomerang. And while this game is not an exact copy of Boomerang, it does feel like it's 80% the same. Even to the point where the symbols on the cards are the same shape as the symbols on Boomerang. Now, Boomerang's a much more beautiful game with the pictures on it, and this one, not quite so much. And there is an area control aspect to this one, which is different. And there's also these heroes and monsters. There's some things that you can get that give you special abilities. But it does really feel like someone played Boomerang and said, how can we change it? The thing is, I don't know that it changes things to be better. The putting the troops into different territories and area control, honestly, wasn't that particularly interested in this. And the theme itself, it's like yet another Viking game. And the way it looks is yet another Midgard game. And it's honestly too close to Boomerang. I don't mind when games are similar, but this one feels like it pushes the boundaries too much, where I'm actually surprised there's not a bigger outcry about this than that the people are like, hey, it just straight up took Boomerang. There's enough changes here, but there's no credit. I don't know. It's fine, but I'll never play it over Boomerang. So, and also the parts that it changed, I don't really particularly care for. So, Clans of Midgard gets a 5 out of 10. Golden Cup is a game from Gabriele Bubola and Simone Luciani from Cranio Creations. And this is some sort of fantasy sport. I'm not even actually sure what the sport is because you are kind of taking a macro look at this. It's for a bunch of different players. I believe that this goes up to 6 players. And in this game, you're collecting star players. And what's going to happen is each round of the game, you are playing one other person. So you'll pick somebody else, or the game actually picks for you, and you go through all the different people, and you're going to add up points, and at the end of the game, the 2 people with the highest points will play in a championship game. How do you play in these championship games? Well, you have a bag. You're pulling resources or chips out of that bag, so you can throw defensive chips in, offensive chips in. It feels a little bit like it's almost a soccer/football game. And you're using your special abilities of star players that you've hired. You have money. You can buy different things. And honestly, this game feels very similar to Challengers, a very popular game. In Challengers, that was kind of a deck building game. This is a bag building game. It's pretty silly. It's fairly random. It is a little weird that there's a dual level of randomness in this game. You're pulling the chips from a bag, which is random as it is, but there's also dice rolling. And I think dice rolling is a little bit over the top is what takes this out from me really liking the game. I like Challengers. It's silly, it's back and forth, but it's fast, it's fun, and you laugh a lot. This one you do so, but the game feels like it takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more drawn out. There's economic stuff in there. So I like it. It's interesting. Parties might have a rollicking good time with this, but why would I play this when Challengers exists? I think that's the problem with Golden Cup. So a lot of fun ideas. But I'll have a good time when I'm playing it, but I can only give it really a 6 out of 10. That's Golden Cup. Stalk Exchange is, Stalk Exchange is about flowers, and it's not Stock Exchange, it's Stalk Exchange. And that's kind of sets the tone for this one. It's designed by Christopher Ryan Chan, who's probably best known for designing Night Cage, and published by the Op Games. In this game, there's 5 different flowers, or stalks, and there is a Stalk Exchange where you're going to be putting flower tokens on it. You have a secret flower portfolio that you have behind these shields that fall over a lot. And you have 2 actions. You're going to basically place tokens on this board, trying to form groups of flowers, or you're switching flowers with your own portfolio, changing basically how much stock you have in the stalks. You can even spend seedy business tokens to get extra actions, although they're hard to get. There's an upkeep phase at the end where a group of flowers is completely surrounded. They'll score, and there's points for each of these flowers. The game feels particularly long and short at the same time. It's not a particularly long game. This box is entirely too big for how small the game is. And it's a bit unpredictable, especially with larger groups of players, because players don't have a ton of agency. At the end of the game, the highest value flower is going to lose half of it, and that's kind of But players can, the final players, the last people who go, are going to have a lot of say into how that works. It's a very pretty game, despite all the nonsensical puns in it. The components are really good. They opted a good production here. It's easy enough to teach and play, but it feels longer and more expensive than games that do the same thing. Take Knizia's Loco / Botswana. And it's not really a stock market game. There's no outside influences here. It's just what the players are doing back and forth. It's a little too loosey-goosey for me in that regard. The highest value can also be crazy. Like I said, it gives that last person too much power. And it almost feels like a kid's game, although I wouldn't recommend it for kids because at the end of the day, the game's a little boring. Stock market games have that tendency, right? They can be boring easily, so you need to add a little bit of excitement to them. And this one here feels almost like it's like we're all really relying on the puns in it and the prettiness of the pieces. The game itself, though, I think just isn't enough there for me. So this one, it's just not a great one. I did not particularly like it. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Humanity. Oh, the Humanity. Humanity is designed by Johan Levitt, who is probably best known for being one of the half of the team that designed Turing Machine. This is from, he also designed Mermies, and this is published by Bombex, and it's a future space theme. I think you're colonizing Titan in it or something like that. And the game's going to take place over 3 years. Players are taking actions using astronauts. You can send these astronauts to work on the base, which kind of activates tiles in front of them. This game is all about these tiles in front of you, and these tiles are going to rotate, showing how many resources they have or other things. The modules will all rotate, and you can deploy more modules or try to get rid of obstacles that are in your area to put out modules. You're spending resources to put them out. The modules have rules. There's also the science experiments, which have rules, and honestly, I think the game has way, way, way too many rules for how light it is. I mean, it's not a light game per se, but it does feel like the rule to fun ratio is a little off here. I mean, there's ways to get victory points, these experiment modules, but you're putting them on one side and the other side in the middle. There's astronauts, and when you use a lot of astronauts, they're going to go kind of on this rondelle thing where you get them back, and there's modules on it, and it feels like that's an interesting thing, but there's more rules, and it's kind of like, I guess I can go now. The looks of the game are fine. There's some really nice components in there. But like I said, my biggest problem was the rules, not that they were hard to understand, but that there was just too many for what you get to do. Games about getting resources are fine. I tend to like them. But this one, for me, outstayed its welcome. It moves too slowly, and you really never feel like you're doing anything of note and value. I felt like the points that you get at the end of the game just weren't that many, and I never felt in a lot of these games I want to feel like I'm building this cool, awesome thing in front of me, and this one is not that way. The workers, when you use, I said they often go on this time track rondelle type thing, which feels more like a punishment than anything else. It's a fairly light game, and the themes are fine, but the mechanics overwhelm the theme, and at the end of the day, I really don't find it to be interesting much at all. There's some cool concepts, but this one is just a 5 out of 10. Robo Rally Transformers is a game I kind of scoffed at when I first heard about it. I'm a big fan of Robo Rally, one of Richard Garfield's original games back in the 90s, but Robo Rally is about programming robots, and I'm like, why are you programming Transformers? I still don't understand it after playing the game, but we'll just put that aside for now. If you've never played a Robo Rally game before, you build a little racetrack where you have to get back to certain obstacles, and you can build tons of racetracks in here. The book has several that you can just set up, or you can make your own. And on your turn, you're going to be playing cards from your hand, face down, in a programmed way. You reveal them, and you'll move around the board, but other players moving and doing things can mess you up. This game is kind of a mix of the original Robo Rally with some of the expansions. They've changed a lot of different things. In this particular one, you have Transformers, so they can change between their bot and alt mode. They're definitely shooting at each other all the time. So there's actually a drift card now where you can move sideways without changing direction. There are jump ramps and other new elements that are, specific to this game. And of course, there's the cool little miniatures. Basically, this is the same as Robo Rally. If you like Robo Rally, you're going to like this, and if you don't, you won't. Some people don't like these sorts of games because they have their very distinct plan that they've made, and one person pushes them off. I don't mind that because I'm sitting there going, okay, I have a plan, but I have to realize someone might mess it up. So if they do, I'm still hopefully heading in the right direction. You need to build small racetracks, of course, when you're playing this game. If you build something large or ridiculous, it's not going to work well. But like I said, basically Robo Rally. So for me, this is a 7 out of 10. I enjoy it. Not as much as I used to enjoy Robo Rally, but it's still good for a lark as long as you build a small track, and which causes a lot of interaction between the players. And I have to admit, I'm still a fan of the Transformers. So Robo Rally Transformers, 7 out of 10. We're Sinking is a game that tells you exactly what's going on when you play it. It's designed by Joseph Frederick and published by Ludomus Games. And this is a 3 to 6 player game, although I'll tell you right off the bat, it's going to be better with more. And you are taking the role of pirates on a ship that is under siege. There's some sort of monster, a kraken, megalodon, skeletons. You pick one at the beginning of the game, and that's the monster you're going up against. And each turn, you're going to be picking an action, and you can even lie about the actions that you're taking. There's some benefits to telling the truth, but really in this game, you don't want to trust anyone. You can sit there and try to bucket water out of the ship because your ship is sinking, hence the name of the game. You can patch stuff. You can patch up holes in the ship. You can patch up your cannons that are broken. You can try to shoot the cannons. You're attacking these enemies that are coming after you, or you can just grab some loot. See, here's the thing. You're taking out these threats. If you take out the threat and beat it at the end of the game, whoever has the most treasure wins. However, if the ship sinks, whoever has the fewest cards wins. which is going to be two very different things. Since you have to work back and forth, you're going to have to work together to fight off the threat, but only one person's going to win. So this is kind of a semi-cooperative game. These games are often games that I tend to look down on, but it's not really semi-cooperative. It's really every man for himself. You just work together with other people out of necessity. If the ship's sinking and everyone starts shedding cards, someone might go, well, maybe we can fight the thing off and I have the most treasure. Everyone wants treasure. It's an easy thing to grab, and it's hilarious the amount of lying that goes on in this game. Now, with lying in games, I know that bothers some people, but this game, it's quick turns and everything, so it's not so backstabby as you might think. The artwork is on point. The components are fantastic. Each monster plays differently. The game gets harder and harder as you go through. That ship is likely going to sink. You have to kind of play with a lighthearted spirit. People are going to lie to you, and the game has some swinging moments, and it's a smidge too long for what it is, but I have a good time playing it. I haven't played it with the lowest player counts, but I can tell you right now, it seems to be best with as many players as you can get in it. And I don't think I want to play with the low player count. So this is kind of a convention game, a fun game, a party game. Not quite a social deduction game, but social deduction adjacent. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 for Where's Sinking. And there you go, folks. That is 7 games. 7 big, giant games, really. These are all quite hefty boxes for the most part. Some good, some not so good. But maybe you think differently. Let us know in the comments. Any of these games you love, any that you aren't particularly a fan of, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you, and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.